In all the years I've been on TikTok, I've never been one to do videos with a part one, a part two, a part three. I hate those. This next story is going to be kind of long, so I will tell it in segments. Each story will be complete on its own, but it all leads into something else, so just bear with me there. Now, in previous videos, I told you that from the early 80s to maybe the early 90s, I owned a recording studio in downtown Minneapolis. Happened to be kitty corner from First Avenue. Now, when I got into the business, I was a radio guy, so I was producing radio commercials, TV commercials, slideshows, that kind of shit. I'm not musically inclined at all. But when Prince, The Time, Husker Du, and all that stuff started to hit Minneapolis, it got crazy here. People were pouring in from other states thinking that this was a mecca for music, that this would be the place where they could become stars. So people came to me and said, "Do you do music?" Now, I'm 21, 22, 23 years old. So fuck yeah, I do music, even though I didn't. So I had a lot of people coming in the door. And you remember the story where I had Prince's cousin come in and looked like we might have a deal, but it turned out he stole Prince's song and that all went to shit. Well, after that happened, I thought my time in the music business was done. But that wasn't the case. The fact that I had any action at all was enough of an inducement for people to keep pouring in the door. I had to put security on the door. But one day I had a young man walk in. And this was a different story because most of the people coming in told me they were geniuses and they were horseshit. This kid was different. This kid had a pedigree, he had a lot of talent. His name was Jerry. Now, Jerry's father was a known jazz guitarist in the area. He was also a former member of the group The Time. Now, Jerry was in the movie Purple Rain, and he replaced Terry Lewis back when Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis were fired. You remember that whole story with Prince? Anyway, he was in the group The Time. After Purple Rain, things kind of died out for The Time, and Jesse Johnson, who was also in The Time, peeled off and started his own band called the Jesse Johnson Review. Now, this kid went with Jesse Johnson and played bass for him, toured a little bit, recorded a little bit. So this kid had a track record. And he comes in with a tape, and I was amazed because he had a lot of similar talents to Prince. He could play every instrument, and he was exceptional at it. He could sing lead vocals and background vocals. He wrote the songs, and he could produce the songs, and he was good at it. So I'm seeing this kid, I'm thinking, God, this guy is pretty fucking talented. This guy's really talented. Maybe I've got something here. So I took a chance. The connection I made through the Prince's cousin deal out in Los Angeles was very valuable. He had the connections in Los Angeles. And of course, we went through this bullshit where the whole deal died because of a stolen song. But I took a shot and I called him. I said, "Hey, dude, I got this kid. I know, but you got to listen to it." And he listened to this kid and he goes, "Holy shit. Yeah, let's do something with it." So the idea was to put together a package and a demo tape and try to sell him as an artist and get him a record deal. That would be the normal procedure in things. The only problem with it, this kid was very talented. He could have easily gotten a record deal. He may not have been as talented as Prince, but he was more talented than most people out there. The problem was, at the time, you had the Prince situation, the more androgynous look, that kind of charisma. And Jerry was more of a bulky, masculine looking guy, and he wasn't charismatic like Prince was. So we were getting pushback every time we were presenting him to a record company. And I will say this about my contact in Los Angeles, he got us in the door of everybody. And just being able to do that is fucking amazing. We got heard from all the top A&R guys in Hollywood. We even had meetings in Hollywood in their offices. It was crazy. I had no idea how fortunate we were at the time because I didn't know anything about the business. So anyway, we're going along and we're not getting much play as far as getting him a record deal. But one day my contact come to me and says, "Look, we don't have anything else going, but there is a band that wants to use one of Jerry's songs on their next album." I said, "Cool." Don't know what that means, but we said, "Cool." The band was a band called the Force MDs. Now, they had a few hits. They were working with Jimmy and Terry, Jam and Lewis, for a while. They weren't now, and they wanted to do one of Jerry's songs. The song was called Somebody's Crying. It actually came out, it charted on the black charts. It wasn't a huge hit, but it got some exposure. But here's the interesting story of this. When they decided to accept the song, I got a call from the president of their record company. Her name was Monica, and it was from Tommy Boy Records. She says, "We want to do the song. Who do you suggest to produce it?" And I said, "Well, Jerry will produce it himself." No, we're not allowing that to happen. That's not fucking happening here. So she said, "Pick out a producer, and then we'll get going." Now, I don't know any fucking producers, but actually I did. I did know a producer. There was a guy by the name of Monty Moyer. He was the original keyboard player for The Time, and he happened to live across the street from me. I grew up with the guy, so I called Monty. I said, "Look, Monty, you work with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. We need a producer for this. Do you want to do this?" He said, "Let me talk to the record company and see how much I can get, and yeah, I'll do it." So Monty's now our producer, and we go to a place called Creation Sound, Creation Studios, which was a place where a lot of people worked in the music business back then. The Force MDs come to town. Jerry comes in. Monty Moyer's there, and they're in the studio working on this thing. And I'll be honest, when you get a lot of young artists together, it gets a little chaotic. I couldn't handle it too much, so I'm kind of in and out of the studio. And then across the hall is another young producer, a guy by the name of Oliver. And he's working with this young woman. And she's really cute. But every time he comes out, he complains about this woman. He goes, "I wrote these songs, I'm producing these songs. This woman can't sing. I got to stop the tape. I got to do whatever I can to keep her in key." And he was complaining about it completely all the fucking time. So we're producing the song on our side. He's producing the songs on his side because he's doing multiple songs over there. And we get the song done and it's submitted and everything's cool. And then we find out who this other producer was producing. We didn't know anything about it until after the record came out. But that producer was working with Paula Abdul on her first album, which went like double or triple platinum. She was a big star after that, and so was this producer after that. It was kind of interesting watching the process and seeing how frustrated he was, and then coming out with this huge hit for an album. As I said, Jerry's song did all right on the black charts. But these two situations set Jerry up to get a much bigger legitimate deal. That'll be the next story.